Welcome back to the show where we give you all the Dolphins news you need to know about. If you like that, then please go check out the channel. This podcast posts each and every single Sunday. Today, it's technically posting on Monday, but I'm filming or recording this late at night for you guys, so it will be there for you guys Monday morning. So I hope you guys enjoy this. If you enjoy this kind of content, please go check out the channel and support in any way you can to keep the community growing. This first news story comes from Bleacher Report. Ryan Tannehill throws rookie running back Kalen Ballage out of the huddle for a mistake. Miami Dolphins quarterback Ryan Tannehill relied on some tough love for rookie running back Kalen Ballage. ESPN.com's Cameron Wolfe reported Tannehill, quote, temporarily stopped practice, end quote, and told Ballage to leave the team's huddle during practice after Ballage blew a blocking assignment. Wolf noted Ballage's mistake led to a sack for Dolphins defensive end Charles Harris. Dolphins head coach Adam Gase supported Tannehill's tactic, saying, quote, this is a quote from Adam, "I would have been upset if I was him because he knows what the result in a game would have been. It would have been painful for him for sure. He was in the right kind of making an example there. When he does things like that for offense, it's a good thing." So this story is really funny because I don't know if I really want to start there. I think even what Adam said was the wrong way of putting it. Like, to make Kane, I feel like that makes Tannehill look like a bad guy, like he's trying to humiliate his player, and especially since he's a rookie. You know, I could see how some people would look at it like that. But this is different. This is football. And Kalen may be a rookie, but he's a grown man. You know, people forget that about these players. And Tannehill's a veteran. People forget about, you know, all great quarterbacks do this. You know, Troy Aikman was infamous for doing this. He hated Switzer when he came in place of Jimmy Johnson because Jimmy was a more hardcore coach. If you did things wrong, you were going to get punished for it. Switzer was more of a laid-back guy. Nobody ever did anything wrong, all that other kind of stuff. And Troy kind of had to be the guy to tell everybody, listen, this is how I need things done, and he would get frustrated. Tom Brady, same way with his coaches. Obviously, you can make a 5-minute compilation of him yelling at people on the sideline. You know, it's with every quarterback. Dan Marino has that famous mic'd up moment where he's yelling at his offensive line to block. There's that famous clip of him yelling at Mark Duper because he dropped a pass, and it's stuff like that. I mean, it is what it is. That's what your quarterback should do. You want things ran right, and if you don't get it right, then you shouldn't be in the huddle. And Kalen will learn. And in some organizations, that's okay. Like it's a pat on the back, you'll get it next time. I like this kind of, if you're wrong, you're wrong. The next guy will do it better than you. And if you get it wrong, then you get it wrong. I think it keeps everybody on their toes. And again, I don't even think it's a humiliation thing. And I like this in a quarterback. I always have. I think it just shows I think it's great leadership. I think it's a culture thing. I really do. It's do your job, and that's what it is. Just do your job. I mean, the Patriots are. If you mess up anything on the Patriots, and you don't do your job, I'm sick and tired of hearing that because it's every coach in the NFL says it. Just the Patriots have better coaches than most of the people in the NFL. They're good teachers, but that's what every coach preaches. And it's just do your job. I think that's what it comes down to. I thought it was a funny story, and I'm glad that we have a quarterback that takes command of his team the way he does, because he is the quarterback of this team, and as he should do that. So yeah, I thought that was a really fun story. And again, all quarterbacks do this. It's if you don't, then you're just I don't know. It's just not my kind of. It's not. I think it's a personality thing. I just think it's the quarterback's job to do this. I couldn't even tell you right now a great quarterback in NFL history. Maybe Roger Staubach. That was kind of more of a, maybe Joe Namath too. That really didn't care about that kind of stuff. That was just kind of a fun-loving guy that wasn't hard on his team. Like there very few. And then maybe Terry Bradshaw. I could be wrong about. I don't know. I could be wrong about Terry because he was a lot different on the field. But from what we know of NFL history and stuff of that nature. But you know, I think again. I just think it's a good trait to have, and Tannehill's always really had this. I mean, he got in trouble for that thing way back in the day with the practice squad. There's that awesome clip of him yelling at Rashard Matthews to get off the field because he messed up something. So yeah, Tannehill's always been this kind of a leader. This next news story comes from Dolphins Wire. Cornerback Brashad Breeland visiting with Dolphins on Sunday. Throughout training camp, Torrey McTyer and Cordrea Tankersley have been competing for the starting cornerback spot. Apparently, they're not satisfied with how either one has performed. According to Joshua Anderson of ESPN, Brashad Breeland is set to visit with the Dolphins on Sunday. Breeland signed a contract with the Panthers during the offseason, but the contract was voided when he failed a physical after cutting his foot on a trip to the Dominican Republic after it became infected. Ugh, that's disgusting. Breeland worked out for the Patriots earlier this week. He's also visited with the Ravens, Colts, Browns, Raiders, Cardinals, and Chiefs as well. Initially a fourth-round pick of the Washington Redskins in 2014, Breeland started in 58 career games. He has 8 career interceptions, 59 breakups, and 7 forced fumbles. This is something that I want to get into later in the show. There's a lot of different things that go into this that I want to get into at a deeper level, but base level, because we're getting through the news right now. I don't want to stick on a topic too long. I just spent 5 minutes talking about Tano kicking somebody out. I like Brashad Breeland. I think he's a good player. I don't think he's a bad player. Obviously, he's having some issues getting signed for health reasons, but he is a good player. He's a solid player. It would be a nice addition to the squad, is what I really have. And we're going to get into more about the corners and the defense's performance in that game later in the show, because I'm going to rant about that for a long time, because I have a lot to say about that. This next news story comes from personnel changes stand out on day 12 of Dolphins training camp. After being off for the last 2 days after their preseason opener against the Buccaneers, the Dolphins were back on the practice field Sunday morning during 11-on-11 drills. There were some noticeable personnel changes. Although Torrey McTyer and Cordrea Tankersley have been seeing between the starting cornerback spot opposite Xavier Howard, but Bobby McCain was the Dolphins' starting boundary cornerback with the first team's practice. Also, Minkah Fitzpatrick was the starting slot cornerback, as he was in the secondary with safeties T.J. McDonald and Rashad Jones. Although with those changes, Jerome Baker was the starting outside linebacker when the Dolphins played their base 4-3 defense. Head coach Adam Gase said Miami Dolphins defensive coordinator Matt Burke was unhappy with the way his unit played against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Thursday night. We're really going to get into that here in a second. With the Dolphins' defensive performance against the Buccaneers, it is not a surprise the coaching staff decided to shake things up a bit. However, Fitzpatrick and Baker were some of the bright spots for the Dolphins, and Gase probably wanted to get more first-team reps for them. I love it. I hate the Bobby McCain move for a lot of different reasons. He's an elite slot corner, and he just needs to stay there. He is not as good on the outside as he is on the inside. That's just a fact. We've seen him play on the outside. Granted, it was earlier in his career, but he never was good at it. It just doesn't. He's small. A lot of mismatch issues there. So again, I have a lot of issues with that. I really do. I don't even care. Listen, let's say Torrey McTyer, and you know what, we're gonna get into that into more depth. But I just really don't like that change. I really don't. I really feel like Minkah needs to be a free safety. And especially watching that preseason game, Minkah looked amazing. I thought he looked amazing. I don't know if I can't listen. I've seen the game once, have not rewatched it yet. Haven't had really the time to. But I think the breakup that he had deep down the left sideline, the guy was wide open. It was completely blown coverage. Minkah, obviously made something out of nothing there, but I think it was a Tampa 2 of some kind. Maybe the corner was squatting, I don't know, but it was just a great play by Minkah. And then I think shortly thereafter he gets the hit stick, just completely pops the guy across the middle on a drag route, which was beautiful. I thought Minkah played very well. He tackled very well. Jerome Baker completely surprised me because all the I don't even trust anything Matt Burke says anymore. It's honestly making me want to throw up, and that is what we're going to get into later in the show. But Jerome Baker, the way Matt made him sound was like he is so raw and not even ready. He goes out there and plays better than any. He played better than Raekwon McMillan. He played better than all of the. Granted, he had more snaps than all of them. So I'm not going to say, whatever, but I think Stephon just has as many snaps as he did, if I'm not mistaken. And Jerome Baker just outplayed everybody. I think, to be honest with you, other than Vincent Taylor, who in my opinion probably had the best performance out of any defender, I feel like Jerome probably was number one, or you could make an argument for it. I think, for me personally, I liked Vincent's performance a lot. He had a sack. He had a couple really good plays in the running game. Minka obviously had a solid performance. And obviously, Jerome Baker's was stellar. I really, it just surprised. Maybe it was because the bar was set so low. I don't know. I just really felt like he played well. Yeah, so that's what I really have to say about that. And to be honest with you, I would have to say, we're going to get into it later, but I'm going to rant about my dude Matt Burke a lot throughout this podcast because he's starting to really make me upset. This next news story comes from the Miami Herald. Here's why the Dolphins elevated this rookie into their starting group on Sunday. The Dolphins ejected rookie third-round pick Jerome Baker into their starting lineup on Sunday, sacrificing girth but adding speed and what they hope will be additional playmaking for their first-team offensive linebacker group. Baker replaced Stephon Anthony, who wasn't a factor in limited snaps against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Again, I can't remember how many snaps Stephon took, so obviously not that much. So I guess it's, again, not that fair to compare. But for me, I mean, he just outplayed everybody. He made the most snaps out of anybody on the field in that linebacker core for sure. Let's see here. Baker said it was, quote, very exciting opening with the starters in team drills for the first time in 12 training camp practices. Though Baker played both strong side and weak side in Sunday's session, he playing alongside weak side linebacker Kiko and middle linebacker Raekwon McMillan. If Baker stays with the starters, that means the Dolphins will have gone from a 6'3", 245-pound strong outside linebacker in Anthony to a 6'2", 215-pounder in Baker. So what I have to say about this, to be honest with you, is who crapping cares how big he is. This is not the 80s, this is not the 90s, and this is not the 2000s. This is the whatever the heck we're calling this decade. I cannot remember. It's late. The point is, Jerome Baker. Here, let me go ahead and on a rant, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know how much Mark Barron weighs, but it can't be that much. Dayon Buchanan looks like a twig for a linebacker. If I showed a coach in the 80s and 90s, in the 70s, Dayon Buchanan, Dayon would have been a cornerback, dude. He wouldn't have been able to get on the field as a linebacker. It wouldn't have happened. The man looks like he weighs 205 soaking wet. Okay? Speed matters in this era. And I can't even stress how much. Look at the Cardinals' defense and how they've built it. They have a bunch of small linebackers, dude. Okay? Hassan Reddick, they're trying to convert into a middle linebacker. Terrible idea. Dayon Buchanan, right? You go up to crap in LA, we got Mark Barron. The only team that has, I guess, traditional linebackers, if you want to call it that, is the Carolina Panthers with Thomas Davis and Luke Kuechly. Those guys are monsters, but they're also freak athletes. So, this is where the NFL is going. It does not bother me that Jerome Baker weighs 215. If he needs to, he can outrun a guard. He will be able to, and again, if we're playing a really good football team, he's going to be able to outrun most pulling guards. He's going to be able to get into most backfields just fine. He's going to be just fine. And the way he performed on Thursday night's game was awesome. And I have no issues with him being that small at all. Like, that's just it's the norm now in the NFL. Like, yeah, everybody's doing it. Why shouldn't we? We're not in the crap. Again, it's like we're stuck in time. Last point I want to make about this. Again, it's the normal NFL. This is not something that we should be concerned about. It's his weight, for God's sakes. But one last point. The Panthers, I watch a lot of Panthers games. My brother's a huge Panthers fan. So we sometimes watch games together. Shaq Thompson is a great linebacker, and he was drafted in college. He played safety. Okay, this is not some ridiculous notion that Jerome Baker at 205 pounds could be a successful NFL linebacker, is my point. So I have no issues with that. As long as he's playing well, I don't care. I don't care how tall he is, how much he weighs. I don't care. If he can get the job done, then he can get the job done. And he showed on Thursday that he can. He outplayed everybody else in that linebacker core. And it shows in practice. He gets the start, as he deserves it. This next news, I'm sick and tired of talking about linebackers every single year. I really am. It's so ridiculous, dude. You would think we've already figured this out. And they have no excuses this year because hopefully nobody gets hurt. You know, Raekwon, obviously Jerome, and Kiko. That's the dream lineup. Or Chase Allen. I don't want Stephon Anthony. I don't want anybody else but those three to be in my starting lineup. Quentin Poling, if you show something, okay. We'll throw you in there. Mike Hull's hurt. He's a special teams player anyway, so, and we know who Mike Hull is. He's like a little bit of below average starter in the NFL. This next news story comes from the Miami Herald. Devontae Parker's bad practice day, like Dolphins' career in a nutshell. Devontae Parker jammed a finger on his right. Dude, when I heard about this, I was like, what? This story is so stupid. Dolphins' Devontae Parker jammed a finger on his right hand midway through practice Sunday morning. The injury is minor enough that he remained on the field and finished the session, but significant enough that when he signed an autograph for a military veteran afterward, he did it with his left hand. So that's some perspective to what happened this day. Here's one more perspective. One Dolphins coach privately said after he thought Parker had a good practice, I missed that good practice. Because my eyes saw Parker fail to make any catches in team drills, despite being targeted at least 3 times, and maybe more each time Xavier Howard had Parker not only covered but blanketed. There was particularly no separation from Parker. And on a quick throw on the outside, Parker had Howard behind when the ball came his way. But instead of working back to the football, Parker simply stood there waiting for the ball to come to him. Howard reached around from behind and easily knocked down the pass. I wanted to talk with Parker after practice and get his take on what happened. He declined and walked away. In case you're wondering who wrote that, that's Armando Salguero, longtime beat writer for the Miami Herald. So I want to calm down a little bit before I start losing it. Okay? The mere notion that the excuse, and guys, if you guys watched, and I didn't even read this until just now, the reason I already knew what Armando was going to say, because I feel the same way that he feels, it's because of what Adam Gase said in his press conference. Okay, the mere excuse that he's in the national foot. If he can't deal with the jammed finger, how is he going to go out there and play football on Sundays and survive a 16-game season? How was this his 4th year? And he's over here. He's got a jammed finger in 11 in team drills, guys. He can't do team drills. Let me remind you, he plays in the National Football League. The most physical sport other than professional fighting on the planet Earth. I don't even know what to say to that. He is not mentally tough. That is all I have to say. I don't know if... There's so many things that point to this. Him walking away and not wanting to say anything to Armando. He's clearly beat down. His confidence is shot, clearly. I really worry about him, man. And I hate to say it, but these are the characteristics of a bust. And I hate to say that. But they are. I have to be honest with you guys. I mean, that is some kind of, that's just weak sauce. That's all I got to say about it. That is 1,000% weak sauce. And here's what I don't want to bag on Devontae Parker. I feel like I do that enough. But this story in particular is just so frustrating to hear. It's so frustrating. He's too talented to play this way. Adam Gase said, they asked him, do you think it's Devontae Parker or do you think it's because Xavier Howard is so good? I don't care how good Xavier Howard is, right? Devontae Parker is an absurdly talented football player. And we've seen that multiple times throughout his career. I mean, seriously, this man has some serious talent. He's made some splash plays since he's been a Dolphin. He just hasn't been able to consistently do it. And maybe that's mental with him. How he deals with injuries. Obviously not the toughest, mentally tough player out there. Clearly with the stubbed finger, he can't even finish a dang team drill, for God's sakes. And again, I've stubbed my finger playing football plenty of times. It hurts. It really does. It sucks. But I can pull through, guys. I can pull through. That is the last thing I would be worried about, especially on the professional football stage. I'd be worried about not seeing, DJ Swearinger come on my blind side and crap and decapitate me. That's what I'm going to be worried about, not a stubbed finger, for God's sakes. This is the kind of stuff I'm talking about, dude. Devontae just really frustrates me. He has so much, and I want to move on from this because it's just such a stupid story. It's just, Armando said it perfectly. It's Devontae in a nutshell. That is him in a nutshell. There's not one Dolphins fan out there that doesn't want to see him succeed, because we all know he has it, man. We all know it. And again, this doesn't mean that he won't show up. But let me tell you something. He better show up, because what we saw from Albert Wilson, what we saw from Francis Owusu, what we saw from I'm forgetting. Rashawn Scott had a couple good catches, or a good catch. I think he did. Isaiah Ford, that's who I was thinking about. Isaiah Ford. Isaiah had I think he had 2 pretty solid catches in that game, and he's had a tremendous training camp. He's got to watch it. He needs to watch it. Seriously. And I'm sick of this. We're babying him, guys. We're straight up babying him. If this was anybody else other than Devontae Parker, let's say Francis Owusu said, "Yeah, coach, I stubbed my finger. I can't play you think he's going to not play the team drills? You think he's not going to give it everything he has to make the football team? That's the difference here. Devontae Parker is a name. He's a first-round pick. That's about it. That's why he's getting off on all this kind of stuff. That's what's frustrating about this. It's so stupid. It is so stupid, dude. Oh my god. And it's like all the coaches want to walk on eggshells with him. And I know I'm ranting about this, but it's true. All these coaches want to walk on eggshells on him. Instead of, Adam should have been Adam and criticized him. He said, "Yeah, listen, man, we can't have that. We have to have a certain toughness, man." But he doesn't, because it's Devontae. And again, you have to coach players differently. I get that. Not everybody's the same, and some people can handle criticism and some people can't, clearly. And some people are tougher than others. I get it. That doesn't mean you're a bad football player, but it's just not a good look when you're not, for him, when he is not producing. If he was producing, if he was Julio Jones, I don't care about the story. Be yeah, let Devontae Parker walk away. He isn't, though. That's what makes it bad. That's what makes it not okay. Is you're not producing. You're just a name and a first-round pick. That's it. Everybody else is outplaying you, and we all can see that. But for some reason, you're not getting criticized when asked about why the heck are you not... it's ridiculous, man. I really don't know why Adam... Again, maybe it's a coaching strategy, I don't know. But I feel like it's time to stop walking on eggshells with him. Because again, if this was anybody else in practice, I feel like we would have gotten more of a critique of his performance than just what Adam said in his press conference. So yeah, I ranted a little bit too long on that. I'm sorry, I apologize. This next news story comes from Dolphins Wire. Dolphins tight end Mike Gesicki is fully aware of his critics. This is an amazing story. The knock on Dolphins tight end Mike Gesicki has always been about his blocking skills. The second-round pick knows fully well that he has detractors, but Gesicki is working to silencing his critics. During Thursday's preseason opener against the Buccaneers, Gesicki was able to keep defenders in front of him on a couple of occasions. Gesicki knew he surprised a few people, as he has been working on improving his blocking techniques since the Dolphins drafted him in April. Gesicki said, quote, "That's the expectation. It's not like, oh my god, Mike blocked someone. I know," this is the quote from Mike, "I know that's what everybody thinks." So I thought that was a tremendous response. I've always find it so odd that the norm in sports is for players not to acknowledge what everybody else is saying, knowing full well that they do. I love somebody who is self-aware enough and and is honest with himself and with other people. Like, yeah, dude, I know what everybody else is saying. You know, I'm not going to act like an idiot, because we both know that I do. You know, he's just telling the truth. And I love that about Mike. I thought that was really funny. And you never see that in sports. So I thought that was really good. The 6th news story comes from the Sun Sentinel. Kenny Stills is being put on ice. The Miami Dolphins held Stills out of Sunday practice because of a left ankle injury the starting receiver apparently suffered in Thursday's preseason loss. I love how they say preseason loss. They should just say preseason game. Preseason loss. It's a crap in summer league game. We're just trying to see our young players play. That's it. Coach Adam and see who's producing and who's not. Coach Adam said he's in no rush to get on the team starting flanker back, saying the team will be smart about this. One of Gase's priorities this game has been to get Ryan Tannehill on the team starting quarterback, comfortable playing with Albert Wilson, a free agent addition, and Jakeem Grant, one of the team's top playmakers in camp. Yeah, so this is interesting. Obviously, the reason the story is important is because that means extra reps with Tannehill and Albert Wilson and, you know, Jakeem Grant, who Tannehill reportedly throws with after practice anyway. So yeah, I guess it's just more practice reps for those two to get their chemistry down, which is good. If I was the coaches, I would be like, Jakeem, just run straight, full speed, Tannehill, throw the bomb. You know, let's work on some double moves. Let's work on some of that so we can get the deep timing down, because that's going to be important. For him especially, because that's, you know, what he does best. So this next news story: Dolphins quarterback Bobby McCain comfortable playing on the outside. We kind of went over this already, so I don't want to. You guys know how I feel about this. I think it's ridiculous. I think he should be a slot. He's the nickel. He is the slot cornerback on this football team, and to me, that is as far as that goes. He does that at an exceptionally high level. And anytime you have a player that does something on an exceptionally high level, why in the God's name would I want to move him from that position? That's the way I look at it. I just think it's ridiculous, personally. All right, let's get into the fan Q&A, ladies and gentlemen. There's a lot of rain. Oh, you know what? Before we get into the fan Q&A, I want to talk about the bearded man himself, Hitler himself. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know why I said that. It was ridiculous. It was a bad joke. Let's move on from that. Matt Burke is such a frustrating character. I don't think I've been this frustrated with the coach since Joe Philbin. It is so hard to put into words. Granted, stick with me, guys. I have not watched the game back again. It's just his... Number one, it's his scheme. I don't like his scheme. I think it's bad. I think his scheme is terrible, and I think that's why the miscommunication goes on so much. I think that's why we see so many blown coverages. Not only is it ridiculously and for no reason super complex and stupid, it just doesn't work. And obviously the players and the personnel cannot execute this stupid scheme that they have us running, okay, with Matt Burke. And I'll expand on that. Throughout the entire game, and this has happened since Matt Burke's been here, he loves that blitz where, he stole it from Vance Joseph, but the difference between him and Vance is he doesn't spam it all the time. It's an exotic blitz. He drops the D lineman back in coverage. We saw this a couple times with Vance Joseph. I never liked it with him. It worked one time when Phillips got a pick. Good God, thank God heaven it worked once. But other than that, it never worked. And it's such a frustrating, stupid play. It's not even funny. Like, we have all these good linemen. We have pretty good corners, in my opinion. Why the heck are we playing so much zone coverage? Why is it so complex to play? And again, in preseason, you're not even supposed to play complex coverages. But there was a couple times where we did that blitz. And I'm like, what are we doing? How about we just play man-to-man vanilla, especially in the preseason? Man-to-man vanilla defense. Let the pass rush get after them. I felt like we were super soft in coverage. We didn't get up in anybody's face. I just hate the way this defense is being coached. You know, the thing that really frustrates me is we read that article a couple podcasts back about how Adam Gase wants to build this defense, and it's very similar how John Elway built his defense in Denver. The only difference is they had a good defensive coordinator in Wade Phillips who knew what he was doing. played a ton of man coverage. It was the no-fly zone for a reason. They moved Chris Harris all around that defense. Keeps Lee, obviously, like I just said, a ton of man-to-man. They didn't blitz because they could get pressure with their front four and drop everybody else back. That's simple stuff. And you know why they could do that? Because they had talented personnel, and they utilized it well. They didn't do anything fancy. They didn't try to outsmart you. They just played good defense. And I feel like that's what this defense needs. I think the coaching is not where it needs to be. I really do feel that way with this defense, and it's upsetting me. I just feel like it's not well coached. I don't like the scheme. I don't like the way the players play. On the front seven, fine, I get it. You know, with the wide line defense, you know, whatever. That doesn't bother me. It's not the front that bothers me. It's just the schematic, the zone all the time, the you know, the bluff blitzing. It's just so frustrating. It's overly complicated. You know how we switch safeties. When a quarterback snaps the ball, we have one running backwards, and we have one, so you don't know who's the free, who's the strong. Like, who cares? Okay, yeah, Minka's back there, quarterback. He's the free safety. Okay, like this kind of stuff I don't like. It's like, oh my god, it's like this. I just wish this defense was a vanilla man-to-man, mix in some simple zones. Like every other NFL team. We don't have to do anything crazy special. Let our front four get after you. I feel like that is what this defense needs. I'm going to get up in your face. I feel like we have the Xavier, apparently this god corner. Everybody's saying in camp, you know, we need to see that on a consistent basis in the regular season. Cordrea looked good, and that's all he did in Clemson was press man. Torrey McTyer, he has the body and the physical attributes to do that. Tony Lippett, I've seen him do it at a high level when Vance was here. So that's just it's just frustrating. It's like I really feel like this defense would be better ran by I don't like it. Best way I can explain it. I just feel like it's way too much zone. It's for no reason as complicated as it is. There's no rhyme or reason to any of this stuff. It clearly doesn't work. Can we just line up and play football? I really feel like that's what this defense needs. You know, everybody was complaining, like everybody's moving up and down the field on, you know, the Buccaneers were. Yeah, because our crapping defense is being ran by some self-proclaimed mastermind who wants to outsmart everybody. Just utilize your personnel, my dude. Look at what the Patriots don't do anything crazy. They match personnel for personnel. Okay, that's nothing crazy. Obviously, they'll watch film like every other NFL team. They know what to expect on a day-to-day basis. They play man-to-man, simple defenses, dude. They don't hurt themselves. They don't beat themselves on busted coverages and stuff of that nature. They don't do anything overly complicated. They're well coached. It's just stuff like that, man. I just feel like I just don't like it. I didn't like God, what was his name? Kevin Coyle, I think was his name. Joe Phillips, the defensive coordinator, for as long as he was down here, and I think even before Joe got here, you know, he did the same kind of defense, a lot of zone blitzes, and we saw what Manning did to that. It lost us that game against Peyton Manning. I just feel like this defense just needs, again, and not to repeat myself a million times, just old school, nothing special. You know, that's it, man. Stop trying to, you know, be this you know, mastermind, for God's sakes. It's just so annoying. It's way too much zone, way too much deception, way too much smoke and mirrors. You know, you really only do that if your personnel is bad. That's just his scheme, dude. That has nothing to do with the personnel. He has talented players. We have a talented front four. The front four doesn't get time to rush the passer because when the quarterback drops back, nobody is where they're supposed to be half the dang time. Because his defense is ridiculous. That's what's frustrating about it. How about, this is your assignment, take him away. If you don't, you're benched. I can live with that. I'm sick and tired of seeing these busted coverages where people are running across the field wide open. Because this scheme is stupid. So I blame it on the scheme. I blame it on the coaching. I do not blame it on our personnel. There are far worse talented defenses in the NFL that perform at a higher level because their coaches are just better. Alright, so let's get into the fan Q&A. This question comes from J Rose. He says, "What in the deep blue sea is Matt Burke doing?" This is interesting. Or is our defense that bad? I hope not. It's not the personnel. I really do feel like it's coaching. I want to see a counter argument to that. I want to see if anybody feels differently. Maybe, I don't know. Like I just said, Adam, it was a great article. Adam has tried to build this defense like John did in Denver. They played man to man. So if you're drafting the personnel like you did in Denver, you want a front four that can get after the quarterback. You want good secondary. Clearly, we have drafted a ton of corners over the last few years. Then utilize them correctly. Even the colleges that they played in Clemson, Cordrea Tankersley, man press. Xavier Howard, man press, big body corner. Bobby McCain, mostly man at Memphis. Right? Like, utilize these guys, man. This question comes from Jay Rose. Jerome Baker looks pretty good in the preseason opener. Should we start him with Kiko or Raekwon? I want to see more of it consistently before I say definitively, yeah, he should be the starter. But so far, yeah. I mean, he's outplayed everybody else. Jay Rose, should we drop Devontae Parker and replace him with Isaiah Ford? At this point, saying he's underperformed is an understatement. I don't think we can say, I mean, yeah, at this point in his career, I'm talking in the regular season, yes, he has underperformed. But I don't want to jump the gun. If he continues to be this, if he continues to have bad practices and be bad, and if he doesn't show up in any of the preseason games, then yes, something has to be done. I don't know if Isaiah Ford is the answer. He's more of a slot guy, more of a possession receiver. Really can't take the top off of a defense. Necessarily, Devontae can do that. And I'm praying so bad that he isn't. I'm praying that he reaches his potential. This question comes from Rebecca Jackson. What has happened to you, Skaggs? This is a personal question, I guess. What has happened to you, Skaggs? You used to post almost every training camp, and now I can't even depend on Sunday's podcast. Life hit you hard. It hit you in many different ways. It's unpredictable. That's your answer to your question. And I tried to get this out Sunday, and that's why I'm filming, this really late in the night. This question comes from B. Dennis. He says, if we could change one thing about Coach Gase, what would it be? If I could change one thing about Coach Adam Gase, what would it be? Fire your defensive coordinator. I would have done that last year. I would have been like, Matt, it didn't work. I would have gotten a veteran defensive coordinator to come in who has done it at a high level in the past. There's plenty of them out there. And I would have hired somebody with some good credentials and not some rookie defensive coordinator that has never done it before. Last year was his rookie season as a play caller. It started off pretty good, then kind of petered out towards the end there. And maybe it wasn't all him. It had a lot to do with how bad the offense was. I'm not blaming the entire thing on him, but it's just piling up, and eventually, to me, it's just like we should have probably done something last year and hired a veteran defensive coordinator. This question comes from B. Dennis. He says, who is more likely to get traded, Parker or Andre Branch? Definitely not Andre. I feel like the Dolphins have made it very clear that they want to do this, rotating, D linemen in and out to keep them fresh. They've made that very clear that they want to do that. So definitely not Andre. DP. Do I see him getting traded? No. Anytime you do a mid-season trade, you're never going to get any good returns for it. If history has told us anything. Shannon Crawhorn says, 1. With the talented receivers on our roster, who do you think will continue to list Devontae Parker? How long do you think we will continue to list DP as a starter? If the receivers continue to play at a high level in preseason and practice, up until the regular season games, I think 1,000% you will see a change. If not, Adam Gase is contradicting his culture. His culture is, it doesn't matter who you are, you can earn the spot. If that did happen, then he's just a liar. So yeah, I don't think if this continues, I don't think DP will be the starter. 2, do you think it would motivate DP if you were bumped down to the second? No, dude, I don't know. I couldn't tell you, bro. I could not tell you what motivates Devontae Parker. And I feel like he's getting so much hate, and it's almost over the top, because people do forget this guy is talented. He's very, very talented. I just don't think he's mentally strong, to be honest with you. I think that's probably the problem. It clearly bothers him. Him walking away from Armando wouldn't even answer his questions. It clearly bothers him that he had a bad practice, which is a good thing. But it's, to me, how does he respond to that? Does he come back and work harder, or does he just kind of sulk in his wounds? Does he not, how does he handle that? That's the question. It's like, what kind of mental toughness are we when he gets knocked down, does he stay down or does he get back up? That's the question. Mark Scholl says, what's your opinion on our offensive line and linebackers? I fear these are the groups that will cause us to lose games. I disagree with that. I think the offensive line played very well on that first series. I mean, Tannehill didn't. Nobody even got close to my dude at all. And the Buccaneers defensive line has gotten so much hype because they got Vinny Curry from the Eagles and they got JPP from the Giants. Like, oh, they have Jared McCoy. Jared McCoy, the only reason he got a sack is because he was going against back linemen. But, they got posted up. That's the term that I like to use when you get straight up. It's like a sticky note on you just can't get it off of you. Like, yeah, dude, I'm not going anywhere. I'm on your hip. Get posted up. I felt like that's what happened to that defensive line. I thought the offensive line had a very, very good performance, especially since we've been hearing all this stuff about them in practice. And the linebackers, I feel like if this defense was more simple, we wouldn't have so many problems. I really do feel that way. So, yeah, that's what I have to say about the linebackers. I feel like we would get a better performance from them. Joe says, would you be in favor of moving Raekwon to strong side linebacker, putting Kiko... Joe, this is Joe McIntyre. Full name. Would you be in favor of moving Raekwon to strong side linebacker, putting Kiko and Mike, and having Jerome Baker at weak side, which would allow us to put who I believe are the best linebackers on the field at once? Also, do you have a Twitter? Once again, love the channel. Do not have a Twitter. So you want Raekwon on the strong side, putting Kiko at Mike and Jerome Baker. No, Raekwon needs to be the Mike. That fits what his strengths are. Kiko needs to be strong side. Or weak side, doesn't really matter to me, and Jerome Baker needs to be on the outside as well. That's my I think that would be the best. This question comes from Stu. He says, do you think Mike Gesicki will start at the end of the year, and why? I don't even the end of the year. He's going to start week 1. I think he's outplaying every tight end on the team. And I mean, you saw that in the preseason game. If it wasn't for our backup quarterbacks being so hot garbage, he would have had a touchdown in that game. If Tannehill was taking the snap, that play, he would have had a touchdown. He ran a tremendous route, and it just, David just sailed it out of the back of the end zone. Didn't even give my guy a chance to, get a hand on it. He tried. He got one hand on it. Almost Odell'd it, but it was so far out of bounds he couldn't have got 2 feet in. This next question comes from Mario. He said, question 1, what do you think about the first preseason game? I liked it a lot. I feel like a lot of our young players, Kalen Ballage had a really good debut, in my opinion. Other than the fumble, he was trying to do too much, but he looked really nice. Sonoris Perry really surprised me. I thought Vincent Taylor looked really good. Jerome Baker really surprised me. Minka looked good. Tannehill looked really good. And I want to stop right there, because I do want to talk about Tannehill. I mean, before we go into the second part of your question, Tannehill I feel like the only thing that he did wrong, even when he semi-missed the deep crosser, that's not, the only problem I had with that is I feel like coaches need to emphasize with him, if there's nobody open and you still don't have anybody around you, take off and run. What's the worst thing that can happen is you either throw it away, somebody breaks open downfield because you are a threat running on the outside, and you can make the throw to get it to him, or you pick up the first down with your legs. I feel like that needs to be emphasized with him, because there was a moment where there was nobody around him, and he could have taken off for the first down. Instead, it was an incomplete pass. So that was the only criticism I have of his performance. It was literally just one drive, but other than that, I thought he looked really good. And so that's some of my quick thoughts on the preseason game. He says, question 2, what do you think about Mike wanting to block and not be a tight end receiver, but an all-around tight end? I think that's great, especially in this offense. Jacob B says, can the offensive line do... And the offense... One more thing I want to say about the preseason game. the offense looked good all night long. We were moving the ball up and down the field. It was just bad quarterback play, I feel like, is the reason we couldn't finish most of those drives. There was a couple touchdowns that were missed. The one to Gesicki, David missed. Brock missed Rashawn Scott on a pick play. He had a wide open touchdown. I don't know how you're 6'8" and can't make that pass, and it gets batted down. He had multiple batted passes. I feel like Brock played terrible. So other than that, I thought the offense and everybody else on the offense played really good. David Fales had one really good throw. Other than that, Bryce Petty probably had the best all-around drive out of any of the backup quarterbacks. But I feel like the offense as a whole really was moving well. It was a flow. There was a rhythm. I like that. I think that's what I took away the most, and especially that offensive line playing as well as they did against a pretty talented, in quotes, defensive line for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I also want to say, I felt like the Buccaneers, especially with Jameis, they kept their starters in way too long. Obviously, Jameis is going to be suspended, so that's why he got so much playing time. But they kept Cameron Brate in. I felt like that was like, okay. So I think there were some advantages that I think some people are overlooking, that there were legitimate NFL starters that are above average that were playing in that game with Jameis. I think Cameron Brate was probably the only one, though. Jay Cross is, Jay says, if Devontae Parker is really having a bad camp, what do you think about taking a look at Dez Bryant? He just doesn't fit the culture and what we're trying to do in Miami. So, yeah. Mike Gets Sexy 86 says, do you think we should trade Devontae Parker with the news coming out of camp and his overall performance? I say we trade him, and he has some value. I don't think he has any value at all. Like, you're not going to get anything for him for trading him. You might as well write it out and see what he can do. Hopefully he turns it around. Ron says, how serious is the knee? And it sucks, man, that we're in that situation. I hate it. Ron says, and again, I feel like we're down on Devontae way too much. Let's just see what he does for the rest of the preseason and the regular season. Ron says, how serious is the knee injury to Mike Hull, and do you think it costs him a roster spot? This is a great question. I do not know the severity of the knee injury. I don't even think the Dolphins know. I can't remember. I remember Adam saying something about it in the press conference, but other than that, really don't remember. Will it cost him a roster spot? Most likely. But Michael's a really good special teams player, so maybe not. We'll see. But I would say most likely, because you have Chase Allen, Quentin Poling, who else do we got? I'm drawing a blank right now. But that's a lot of linebackers, especially middle linebackers to keep. Ron says, is it clear Jakeem Grant does a better job than Devontae Parker? And now Francis Owusu is showing the same ability as Grant to get behind the defense. Can you explain why Parker is still a starter when once again Sunday, the 12th Parker practice, he got dominated in practice? What seems to be the coach's problem when we know that we have two guys but one who can do better? What I would say to that, and the argument against it, is we don't know. I don't think you could say we know that. First of all, Francis was going against low-level competition. Those are not starters in the National Football League. Some of them won't even make the team. Most of them won't. So we can't prove that Francis can do some of the things he did against first-team players. Jakeem Grant, don't really know if he can do it on a consistent basis. DP is the only one that's really showed flashes of a legitimate Pro Bowl #1 receiver out of any of those guys on the National Football League stage. That's why we continue to hold on to him. It's just this idea and the flashes that he shows, and I think it's the coaches hoping he can just put it together. Will he ever put it together? I don't know. Who knows? But I think that is the best answer I could give you, Ron, why they still have him listed and why they treat him as high as they do. This next question comes from Ron. He says, it's been painfully obvious that Stephon Anthony is stiff, slow to read, has been replaced by stretches by Chase Allen, who has done vastly better. So why do the coaches keep putting Stephon Anthony back as a starter? Well, obviously, now you didn't have the context for this, but he got removed. So I think you're getting your wish, and I agree with you, Ron. I don't think Stephon, Jerome has to consistently do it, but Jerome is playing better. All-Star Gabe says, could Isaiah Ford beat Parker when it comes to being a big receiver on this team? The only thing I would say against that is Isaiah Ford doesn't add anything different to the offense that we don't already have. We have a lot of possession receivers on this football team. Most of them can do both. Most of them can go deep and do some of the route running, and they're very good route runners. But Isaiah Ford doesn't replace what Devontae Parker would leave. Now everybody would say, oh, well, he's not producing and he's not whatever, but he just doesn't add anything to the lineup that we don't already have. Is he better than what Danny does? Probably not. Is he better than Albert? Probably not at this point. We don't know. But the only problem I have with that is he just doesn't add anything to the lineup that we don't already have out there. Now, if we do some 5-set receiver sets, maybe some 4 receiver sets, you can make the argument that he should be out there, or he needs to be. He does need to be out there. But other than that, I really just don't know what Isaiah would add to that, to a 3 wide receiver set or a 2 wide receiver set that we don't already have. Now, if he continues to get open, then that shuts me up. So, and I guess that's what he adds. He actually gets open. So I guess that could be an argument. But he is more of a possession receiver. Dougie Ward says, with the audience of quality, with the abundance of quality wide receivers we have, do you think it would be wise? This comes from Douglas Ward, by the way. This question comes from Douglas Ward. The last question came from All-Star Gabe, if I didn't say it. Douglas Ward says, with the abundance of quality of wide receivers we have, do you think it would be wise to trade a couple? And what do you think we should get into return? No, do not think that's wise. We really have to let this play out. And maybe at the end of the preseason and roster cuts, maybe we keep some and trade, but I feel like we have to. I mean, this team was terrible on third down for the last 2 years, really. Even when we made the playoffs, we really didn't get good on third down until, obviously, the 6-game win streak, which then obviously ended up propelling us into the playoffs. But we were still not a good third down offense as a whole that year, and we were terrible in 2017. So, really have to let this play out and see who are the front runners. But Rashawn Scott, this is probably the most healthy he's been in the offseason. He's looking really good. We do have a bunch of talented players that some are going to have to be let go. But don't think any of them really have tremendous trade value, because most of them haven't had a lot of production on the National Football League stage. Josh said, so what's going to most likely happen is they're going to get cut. Or some of them will. Josh says, should the first team offense practice against the second or third team defense just for the sake of seeing what plays like through to completion? Could it possibly count for slow starts they usually seem to have each year? Should the first team offense practice against the second or third team defense? No, because that just makes you worse. You never want to do anything lower than you can actually do it, because you want to do everything at the highest level you possibly can. You're just never going to get better. So that's the best way I can. That just goes for life, really. Corp Gamers is Incorporated. What do you think of our backup quarterbacks? I didn't like it. I felt like out of the 3, like I said, I think Bryce had the most complete drive. David Phillips had the best throw to Francis Owusu, and Brock played the worst out of the 3 of them. But I feel like David is still beating Brock to death. So, but Brock's having a tremendous camp, everybody. So, yeah, there you go. Corp Gamer says, what receivers do you think will make the roster? Very hard to say, because I don't know how many we're going to keep, but I definitely think here are the locks. DP, Albert, Danny. You guys know the starters, really. Those are, some of the locks. But some of the sleeper hits, I would say Rashawn Scott and Isaiah Ford are up there. I would say Francis Owusu is a little bit lower than those two. So, yeah. Corp Gamer says, who should be our starting kicker? Don't know. We'll have to see more of the preseason to really get a definitive answer to that. Mac Moon says, if the run sets up the pass, our run defense is the Achilles heel of our entire defense. We are built to play with a lead and rush the quarterback. Do you agree if teams can keep our defense honest, dominating us on the ground, we become this is a great question. Yes, it does, obviously, and it does for any defense. If you can't stop the run, you're just not a good defense. Because that's again, every misdirection play is going to work on you. You're going to have a lot of linebackers biting up. You're going to play less loose, less free. I also think playing with a lead helps your run defense a lot because play callers, especially if you get up 10 points, double digits, especially 2 possessions, play callers tend to be more aggressive and they kind of leave the running game behind, and that obviously leads to your pass rush. So I think the offense can help the defense in that perspective, but you're not always going to have the lead. It's just how it is. So the defense definitely has to play better on a more consistent basis. But it is a lot of schematic. I think schematically there's a lot of issues as well. And that question came from Mac Moon, in case I didn't say his name. Lou said, after our first preseason game, are you worried about our defense? A little bit. And not the personnel, schematic. Lou says, if you could summarize Thursday's game in one word, what would it be? Relief. Because the offense played way better than I thought they would, and Kalen did not disappoint me. I was like, dang. And Sonoris Perry had a tremendous run, surprised the balls out of me. But Kalen really reassured me. I'm like, yep, he is the real deal. John Vegas says, do you think our defensive coordinator is bad? I do, yes. I feel like I just feel like some of the stuff he implements is just ridiculous, and we talked about that constantly already, so it's the whole safety switching, all that sort of thing. I can't talk about it anymore, I'm choking. John Diaz says, hey Skaggs, starting corners looked a little shaky on Thursday. Do you think McTire, Tankersley, or Lippett put any space between them and the others for the second starting spot? Not particularly, no, because we had them playing 10 yards off of every dang receiver, and they couldn't get the call in, and they couldn't execute the call half the dang time. So I don't even know who's good and who's not at this point. Again, how about they just play man-to-man, Matt? It's preseason. Let's see what they can do. Instead of doing one thing over and over and over again. Let's test different things out. The Dill Pickle says, which rookie looked the best against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in your opinion? Man. I would say Jerome Baker because he surprised me. But Minka looked really nice, and I felt Kalen didn't surprise me because I knew he had it in him. I just didn't think Jerome Baker would play this well that fast. So that surprised me. So I would say Jerome Baker, just because of the surprise level, and then obviously Kalen fumbled, so there's that. But other than, I feel like Kalen was just trying to do, he literally knocked the ball out of his own hands. It was a freak accident. It wasn't like he just, got stripped or, something like that. I don't think that's going to be an issue with him at all. But I feel like Kalen showed great vision. He ran with power. He showed great hands on that screen pass. He's elusive for a big guy. So, yeah. I'm so happy with the offense. I felt like they played very well. They just couldn't finish drives. And a lot of that had to do with the quarterback play. So, yeah. That is it, you guys. That has been your episode for this week. I think there's a lot to be excited. Again, Adam Gase does a great job of coaching, the offense and the team as a whole, really. I feel like they play hard for him. But especially, I think he's done a really good job with this offense, and they look really sharp. So hopefully that consistently continues. There's a lot of playmakers on this team, man, especially in the backfield. There's a lot. And that offensive line looked nice. Nice. They looked really good. So, and everybody was hyping up this defensive line. Oh, JPP, Vinny Curry, Joe McCoy, Noah Spence. They got all these pass rushers. Didn't do nothing against us. And I felt like we had a really good first drive. And again, I felt like if Tannehill would have taken off, we would have picked up that first down, and that drive would have kept going. And that's something he needs to continue to work on, is just feel it, dude. Listen, Tannehill, it's like he's Peyton Manning. He doesn't realize he has the wheels, but he has them. He keeps his eyes downfield, as any good quarterback should. That's what you should do. He's a statue in the pocket, which is great, shows a great poise, but he needs to know when to take off. And hopefully in the quarterback room that's put up, I feel like if I was the coach, that would be the first thing I would have showed him. I'm like, listen, anytime you get this, anytime you get this first, second, third, fourth read gone, even if you have your check down, unless he has a tremendous chance of picking the first down up, I need you to take off, my guy, and create with your legs, because that just makes the offense better and that keeps drives going. So, yeah. I am Skyster83, and I will see you guys in the next one. Make sure you support the channel and spread the word, and I'll see you guys next week.